The end. The end. The end. I feel like I've graduated from my self-help phase. I had a conversation yesterday with a friend about just like creativity and the artist way and projects and things like that. And I kind of had that realization yesterday where I was like, this is kind of the end, the cap of my like focus on self-improvement. I feel like from here on out, I need to just like integrate that work and have that work as like part of my life, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I've been doing a lot of like hermiting, like hanging out in my house, staying, kind of being away from people, like being on my own and working on like stuff really independently. And part of that has been like, okay, like I want to exhibit these qualities. I want to have these skills. And some of those are like emotional skills, and some of those are practical skills like art and film, etc., that type of things. Those types of things. And I feel like I'm at the point where I need to shit or get off the pot, you know? Like, I need to go do these things or move on and decide that it's not for me, you know? And I've been doing it. I have started my short. This will be the first, like I've done like little small, like just like mess around projects. This will be the first like really like intentional big project that I've done with film. And I'm very excited about it. I really think it's going places. I am excited about the story. I think like there's definitely like an audience for it. And I don't know. I'm just really pumped. I feel some good things coming on. I think part of it too is like, again, like I said, like I feel like I've graduated. Like I've like done all this work. I've learned all the things. Now let's see if I can like put it into practice. And like I don't necessarily feel like this book has put me in that place, like because it's like opened up my worldview or anything, but I do feel like it has, like, because it required so much of my focus, now like I have that like structure and discipline in the book, from the book, and I can like transfer that to my life, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know, because I feel like I don't, like, part of me is like, I don't want to give artists away too much credit, because there are definitely things that like made me angry about it, but to a certain extent too, like I don't want to be like, it's all me, I didn't, like I came up with all of this on my own, because that's not true either. And I think as a reflection of this book as a whole, I don't know. I think like when you get down to it, just like any other self-help book, like there are a few little like nuggets in here that are really great. Great tools. I think there is a lot of like Julia Cameron's own bias and like experience in there, and you just have to sift through all her shit to get to the shit that's valuable to you. And I do think like this is one of those books, like I do kind of agree with people who are like, you need to read it multiple times because you'll come back and like get certain things out of it. Like, there were things where I'm like, oh, this would be really valuable for somebody else, but I, like, that's not what I'm coming to this book for. And I don't know, I think that is kind of like the beauty of The Artist's Way, is like, I could read this and then somebody else could come in and read this and get a totally different experience out of it. Part of it is like, she's just being so vague that like you take what you want out of it. But in the same vein too, like, I think there are like she also goes over things so quickly, and like certain things, like there's just so much that she talks about this, that like there were things that I had already learned, or I already like figured out, or I was already in the process of integrating. And like, I just didn't give as much time or focus on those sections as the sections that I'm like I thought a lot more about. I expanded on the sections that I felt like were useful to me. So I think that's where I'm landing with this book. Like, there were parts that made me angry. There were parts that made me like sad. There was definitely like a long period. I think, again, like, general advice for the book, I truly, truly think that you need to learn how to self-regulate before you do this book. Like, you need to figure out, because she does a lot of like, open up this wound, but then doesn't like tell you how to like process it or like work through it or like what to do with it. It's just like, open up this wound, and then you're like angry and you're like, okay, well, what do I do with this after that? And so I think like there needs to be like a base structure of like self-parenting, self-regulating, mental health, like basic type of knowledge, I guess, if that makes sense. And I don't know. I feel like if you have that going into this book, it would be really good for you. I think if you're trying to get from one, like, if you're trying to level up, like, even somebody who's like started doing their art and like producing it, and they have like a pretty decent structure, I think it's like this. I've also been reading, Doechii also suggested A Happy Pocket Full of Money. Let me double check that. And I think like there's like certain mindsets that you need to like either figure out how to like regulate yourself through it, or change about like what success and abundance and achievement look like to you. And I feel like this book is good to get you from one level to the next. So, for example, say you are a writer and you've like, this book was good for me to get started on film, just to like do it. Like, it took me from like not doing things to doing things. And if you're doing things, I feel like it could take you from doing things to doing things with a lot more intention, or like maybe if you're somebody who wants to do things like commercially, then it can take you from like just doing things to doing things commercially, if that makes sense. And then say you're doing things like commercially, but you're not to the point where like you're making this amount of money on it, or you're getting these types of opportunities. I feel like it can like help change those mindsets from like, I'm doing things commercially, to like, I'm getting these types of opportunities. And again, I think like that has been my focus with like a lot of my self-help, is not just like leveling up like financially or like career-wise, but just like being like, I think I've been in a place where like in my hermitness, like I haven't taken time to build that community yet, because I've been like, well, I want to be at this level to have these types of people around me, and I think this book was good for that too, of just being like, okay, what's the community I want around me? Like, what's the mindset I want I want to be like a part of the community? Like, what type of lives and lifestyle and expectations will I have there for these people in my community, and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I think there's definitely value in that, because I think, especially if you've come from like a space where like I really want to say nepotism. Like, I think there's nepotism in a lot of ways, like wealth nepotism of just like getting you into wealthy spaces and having people like who can sponsor you for things, or et cetera, et cetera. And there's also like opportunity, like nepotism opportunity, and like, you know, if your parents are creative or your parents have artistic careers, and even if they're not like wildly successful, like they still understand what it's like to be in an artistic career. Like, something me and my siblings have talked a lot about, of like trying to pursue a career when both our parents are teachers, and like they're the first of their generation to go to college, so like their like career experience has been very limited, and frankly like rather cushy in the sense of like job security. Because especially right now, the US really needs teachers, and it's hard to find like decent committed teachers, especially like people with experience and degrees, because right now, I mean, it, like, I will say they're cushy in those senses, but not like, I don't think like that job's easy by any means, but it's a very different, what I'm getting at is it's a very different career path than say like a freelance videographer or a graphic designer, especially working like commercially, like very commercial, like corporate. You know, those are like very different career paths, and like I really can't go to my parents for advice, because they very much like play it safe when it comes to those types of things. And I don't have an example in my life of somebody like from my hometown or from my family, at least. Like, I've met people for sure, and I think that's been part of my like building my community, is it's hard to find those types of people, but I'm willing to wait. Like, I'm willing to like, I think something that's been good like through my process of reading this book is like just being patient to build like skills and community and etc., like those types of things where like I don't want to just rush into something and like, well, I have the skills to do animation, so I'll go do that, or I have access to these people right now, so I'll just be friends with them. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think you should have those types of friends. I just think that shouldn't be like your entire community. Like, I think the good chunk of your community should be like people that it's like you've like slowly collected over time, that like bring a variety of values to your life outside of just like being accessible, if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too preachy, but I don't know. I feel like a very different person, and I'm excited to move forward. I'm excited to build these communities. I'm excited to do that. So let's get to chapter 12 after that very, very long intro. So thank you for coming to my dead time. So first section was trusting. Again, I feel like this is like not anything new. Like, shouldn't bring up anything new this time around. The trusting section is really like checking yourself when you're micromanaging and not allowing yourself to flow with the process. Like, are you trying to micromanage the universe or God or whatever that's like giving you the creativity or giving you like motivation, etc., process, like that kind of thing. And then I think the biggest thing with this section was just your internal reflects your external. And I think she's like kind of touched on this, but this is something I feel like she should have gone more into. I think it would have, like, I've heard in other spaces like that type of thing, and I really like that. Like, I agree, and I like that like rhetoric, and I think it would have been really helpful for people who haven't experienced that in other spaces, to like go into depth on like, you know, what you feel. If you don't trust yourself, if you don't trust, like, if you have internal like trust issues with yourself or the universe, then that's going to really reflect on like the universe isn't going to trust you back. If you're being shady with a friend's not going to be like open and honest and vulnerable with you. They're going to be kind of shady back. So yeah, I think that's just like the biggest thing I took from that section is like when you tell yourself yes. And I think that's something I've definitely like experienced in the past couple of years of like just taking note of like when I tell myself like, oh, I don't have time, I don't have energy, I'm tired, and putting time and energy and thought into that results into that being true, versus like putting time and energy and thought and effort into like, yes, you can do other projects, or yes, you should be doing this creative thing or learning these skills, blah blah blah. You know, I feel like that, like, when I have said yes to myself, good things have happened. And I've gotten reflected that yes back. All right, y'all. Section 2. Mystery. Again, this is another, like, don't try to control everything. Don't count your chickens before they hatch type of thing. Like, don't give up or expect something out of a project before it's like gotten to that point yet. I don't know. I don't feel like there's a ton to expand on this one. I could give you examples, but I feel like y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't need to like over explain that. One thing that she really pointed out in this section though that I really liked was that micromanaging or control is like putting you in a state of lack, or more like results focused rather than like allowing it to flow, being curious, being open, etc. Again, I think that's something that's like I really need to keep in mind. I really love to control things, so when I can let go of that, I think, like, I know for a fact my art is better. I create more interesting art. I create like unexpected outcomes that are majority of the time better than what I originally planned when I was trying to micromanage things. So just think about that. Oh, the other part of this section that I really liked is she talked about like life as an artist state. And I think, to me, I like wanted clarification of whether it's on like social media or whatever. Like, we've all interacted with those people who are like, this is going to create such great content, or this is going to be great for the script, or great for my writing, or great for this art. And I think the way you achieve like good art, good, like, especially good art from experience, is usually like people who just allow themselves to like experience things and be in the moment and be present. And then the art is like a reflection of that, which I think like then it's kind of an interesting thing, and it really like makes sense to me, like within my lifetime, like my life framing of art within my experience, like art is not a very present thing. Art is very much like an escape thing, whether you're writing or creating visual arts, like you're thinking about a story that's not happening at that moment. Or an experience that's not happening at that moment. But you have to be present for that experience to be able to come back for the art and reflect on that experience. And I don't know, I think I almost expected, like, I feel like sometimes people treat it the opposite way around, and I almost expected, not, like, you should be present for your experiences, but I think there's a level of, like, needing to balance, like, being present and open and, like, in flow with the process, but, like, your emotional experience is in the, like, you're, like, experiencing, I feel like I'm getting really jumbled. Your emotional experience is coming from a place of what was happening during this time, how was I feeling during this time, what was like going on for me. And I don't know, it makes sense. I think saying it out loud, like, really, like, confirms it to myself. And I didn't expect to have that belief about art versus experience. I think that's something, like, as a high schooler, I was very, like, in tune with, of, like, being, like, I would use a lot of other people's experience, because I was, like, my experiences aren't valuable, I don't know what to talk about, and it was very much, like, the era of, like, I think societally and just as a teenager, you kind of, like, tune into that type of stuff more, of just, like, art has to be come from suffering and pain and sorrow and all that type of, like, negative stuff. And my art came a lot more from, like, curiosity, trying to understand things that I haven't experienced or that I have experienced in a different way, lending myself and others, like, compassion and trying to understand that. And so I was like, well, my art isn't deep, or my art isn't, like, as valuable as these people who have had these, like, awful, extreme experiences. And, like, coming back as an adult, I definitely, like, listen to sad girl music and participate in, like, sad girl content. But there's definitely a lot of space, and I will have moods where, like, I do not want anything to do with sad girl stuff. I want a comedy. I want happy music that I can just bop to. I think I'm giving, like, I think a lot of it is giving more space to, like, big experiences can be both, like, happy and sad. Like, I don't, to be, like, deep and interesting, you don't have to be sad, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't have to be, like, a tortured, sad artist type thing. I don't know. I was just really surprised by that. I surprised myself with that. And, I don't know. I think that's something, again, if we're talking about the whole book, like, I think that those are the types of things that you should, like, take away, of, like, really, like, what is this belief? What do I truly believe about this? Like, getting that and, like, confirming it for yourself, so you understand, like, this is my belief about this. And then kind of reflecting, like, I mean, I've had my growth around that belief, like, over time, but I definitely think, like, you could do it within the book, of being like, hey, this is a belief I have. Do I feel like that's, like, a valuable belief that, like, benefits me? Or is it something that, like, works against me? So, thoughts. Just my thoughts on that. The final section is escape velocity. This was a really interesting section. I feel like again, this is something like not totally new, but she hasn't really like gone into too depths about this. This was kind of the first section that she did. Um, and I truly, truly believe like it's true, like it's accurate. Um, she like starts off with the section, escape velocity is like when you're about to like up level or get out of a cycle, the universe for or the cycle or the thing you're like up leveling from can tell that you're about to like change or leave, and that will like make kind of a last effort to like keep you in that space. um some examples she gives, like if you're about to get married to your like dream man and the like toxic relationship that you had or just relationship that you didn't go well comes back into the picture and is like, hey, we should get back together, that kind of thing. The one I really related to is, and I feel like this is kind of what I've been like with my job lately, back and forth on, is like, you know, I will be like, I'm so done with this job. I hate it. I'm done. I'm ready to move on. And then I'll have a moment where I'll be like, oh, it's not that bad. And I think there's a lot of like me really wanting it to be the answer, but it's not the answer. And so I think like, I feel like that is like, she calls it a test. It's like a test to be like, hey, do you really value yourself more than this? Like, are you seeing the big picture and valuing yourself more than this just like one act like of kindness or reach out? Because the example she gives in the book about like jobs is like, you're about to leave your really shitty job where your boss is an asshole and then all of a sudden he gives you a raise. And the money isn't the point. It's more the fact that like you don't have, because your boss is shitty to you and you're emotionally exhausted after the end of the day and you're doing all this stuff for a job that you don't want or doesn't like benefit you or isn't like helping you achieve the things that you need to achieve, isn't good for you, etc. Like you'll decide, I'm ready to move on, I need to move, and then this little test will come up and be like, are you going to accept the smaller like little victory or accomplishment or offering versus like trusting yourself and you need to leave this situation and finding a better one. And again, I think that's very accurate. And I've going back to like being able to talk to my parents about stuff. My parents were always, always, always giving into that test. Like, I can't tell you how many times my parents like got offered jobs that would have been like really beneficial because they were scared of moving or, you know, my dad like coached our like competitive softball teams. And that, I think that was a big reason why we didn't like take a lot of those jobs, because he was like, well, I'm going to have to rebuild a softball team, or I won't be able to coach my kids, or just fear that he wouldn't have those opportunities somewhere else. And so he didn't take the opportunity to expand. And I think I feel like I've almost taken the opposite approach of like I've had a lot of jobs over the past 5 years. And a lot of leaving those jobs is like, I deserve better than this. And trusting myself that I do and that I will be able to find better than what I'm like getting at this point. I think that's where I've been at my job now, is just, you know, I deserve better than this, but also do I think I will have the opportunity to get better than this? And a lot of times that's a no, just because my job now, like, there are definitely, like, it's an improvement for sure from the last graphic design job I had and from the previous, like, non-graphic design jobs I've had. So we're going in a better direction, but I don't think, like, I also don't think, like, if I want to do the cinematography stuff that I want to do, or the film, or projects, or just have, like, a good work-life balance of, like, I'm getting paid enough, but I'm also not working too much. I, like, I think, like, this isn't the answer. Like, I deserve to go after those things and achieve those things. Like, yes, I am not, like, yes, my job could be worse at this point, but I also think, like, there are things I can be grateful about in my job, while also holding the belief that, like, I still deserve better. Like, I can be grateful, in her example, in Julie Cameron's example, I can be grateful for the job offer, while also, I can be grateful for the raise, while also taking advantage of, like, improving myself or expanding. And just because you're grateful for something or you appreciate something doesn't mean you have to take it. I think, and that definitely comes from, like, a people pleasy thing of, like, I think there was a lot about, like, my job currently that I've been, like, back and forth of, like, well, I don't want to, like, leave my job in a lurch. Like, what will happen if I leave? Because there's a possibility that they don't, like, renew my position, or, just right now, like, we are limited on designers, so it would be, like, people having to take up more work, and so I think there's a level of, like, people pleasy of, like, well, it would be easier for people and me and etc. if I, like, stayed in this job, but that's not the point. The point isn't for my life to make it my life easier for other people. The point is for me to do the things that, like, I want to accomplish, especially if, like, I don't know, there's no reason not to look for other jobs right now. Like, even if you're happy in your job, I think you should be applying for better jobs, because if you get that, then great. If you don't get anything, then you stay in the job you're happy with. If you're able to get a job that you're happy with and you get paid a lot more money, then, like, why wouldn't you take that opportunity? So, I don't know. I think I'm coming around, and I think too, like, I've been struggling with, like, wrapping my mind around, like, abundance and being in a state of abundance and a state of acceptance and non-attachment, and how all of those things work together to, like, reflect the energy that I want into the world to get that back, if that makes sense. I think I've, like, made myself believe that you can't be in the process of things. Like, you're either like, I want this thing, and then that thing will come in. But if, like, on the in-between, like, I've had, like, so much struggle of, like, what to do with that space. And I think, like, coming back to what Julia Cameron's saying is trusting yourself, giving that space for mystery, and recognizing the test of, like, are you ready to level up or not? If you, like, part of the test is, like, being able to trust yourself in the universe to, like, bring the right thing into for you, and for you to choose the right thing for yourself. And then understanding that, like, you can't micromanage everything into, like, place to make sense or to work perfectly except how you wanted it to or expected it to. You kind of have to, like, give up some control to the universe and to, into your environment. And part of that is trusting that, like, you'll make the right decision and that your environment is going to bring the right like thing towards you. And then also, again, trusting yourself to like, hey, this is a test and this is the point where like, you know, yes, my boss wants me to stay, or I feel like I should keep at this thing, or whatever it is. I feel like I don't deserve this new level up or whatever, so I'm going to take this thing. And just trusting yourself to like A, recognize the test, and B, to choose the right thing for yourself. And part of that I feel like is like being able to see the bigger picture. So I didn't do any of the tasks this week, but I haven't been the past couple of weeks. Honestly, I've been working on other stuff and I'm tired of this book, so I'm tired of this, Grandpa. So I will be back next week. I think I'm going to talk about like behind the scenes of my new short and the making of that, and pre-production, talk a lot about like pre-production, and we'll see where this goes. Thank you all for coming out. I hope you have a wonderful day and be creative. Find a little daily dose of play. And I don't have anything left. That's it. That's all my thoughts. No more thoughts. Goodbye. Have a great day.